What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Game Time Discussions. I'm Emery Cuzzy. I'm sitting here with Cameron Selby, and we are going to tackle the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl this year is between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. For the Kansas City Chiefs on their third in a row. Right now, KC is a -1.5 favorite, and it is a 49-point over/under. I was just telling you that I was actually surprised KC was the favorite by 1.5, but it also makes sense because they have been here and done it and keep winning, and I get it, but at the same time, I feel like Philly has been more better at this point in the year overall. Just
For sure.
last game, 55 points on the board. So
On paper, if there was no narrative, that would be the pick for a lot of people to win the game based on the way they've been playing. They forced 10 turnovers just in the playoffs alone. Kansas City has forced 0.
Yeah.
And yet they're still favored to win. So it's a huge narrative thing. The first ever team to attempt a three-peat to make it all the way to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Obviously in New Orleans, a very beautiful stadium to have a very fun game. I'm hoping it is just as exciting as it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get into it. There's my mouse. Okay, let's get into it. We're gonna break down the slate and then talk about some other things on Prize Picks and Underdog. But looking at the guys on the board, oh, and let's go to the flex, of course. I would consider Philly the away team, considering they are the non-favorite. Talking about the pass catchers, AJ Brown is the first guy we got to bring up there. Devontae Smith, Goddard.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Okay, so these three guys are the main guys. Last game, I want to pull Jalen Hurts real quick because we did talk about how Jalen Hurts has not been throwing the ball. 4 attempts against Washington, which he didn't play in the rest of that game. But 21 attempts, 20 attempts, 28 attempts. 28's a little bit better, but hasn't been throwing the ball enough. 21, 20, 19, 22. So
they've also been blowing teams out a ton.
Yeah.
Namely putting up a NFL record of most points in a conference championship game.
Right.
With 55 against the Commanders. And he put in a trio of rushing touchdowns on a game where we were like, oh, we got to fade him. His knee's too hurt, and it didn't freaking matter.
Nope.
The good news is the quarterbacks that we also were in on, everybody did well except for Josh Allen, essentially,
Right.
because there was 8 rushing touchdowns combined by quarterbacks, and ironically, Josh Allen didn't have one of those. And, obviously Jaden Daniels returned for 30 points. Patrick Mahomes out of nowhere had 2 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts had 3 tush pushes, and it all accumulates to just a bunch of scoring from the quarterback position.
Oh yeah, it was an interesting slate this last time around. But talking about his pass catchers, AJ Brown is what I would consider the main guy, but he hasn't necessarily looked like the main guy in prior weeks until this last week where he went 6 for 96 and a touchdown, got 21.6 points. I don't even know if that was optimal because of all the other points being scored on the slate.
Right.
So
my lineup basically was all fire, and I didn't cash because I didn't have Jalen Hurts, and he was
Right.
60% owned.
Yeah.
At least from the Showdown perspective.
So 21.6, I think, would get you optimal this week, but hey,
You never know.
They could happen.
Last time it was 38-35, so anything's kind of possible. And both of those were just as talented defenses as these
Right.
these two additions.
For sure. Then the next one being Devontae Smith, a guy that, shows up in big games.
He's caught all 12 targets that he's been throwing
this
postseason. He just hasn't had the boom game because every single game they're playing from ahead, and he just hasn't caught the touchdown. But last time he played the Kansas City Chiefs, he went 7 for 100 yards. He was one of my tournament plays way back when, and it was awesome to see that. But also Jalen Hurts went for 45 fantasy points, and you needed to have him. Very ironic and similar to last week. But he's just as capable. His price keeps on going down because of the lack of production.
Right,
He's not projected high. That's going to correlate with him not being highly owned. So that's why I find him so intriguing this week.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thought. He has come down in price a lot. If you couldn't, you see there, 8,800, 8,000, 8,600. Well, he's 7,400. So that's a reasonable price for a guy that, has insane upside. So he actually, we talked about he last year had better stats in the year than AJ Brown.
Mm-hmm.
The next guy is Dallas Goddard, and Goddard had eight targets last week, 7 receptions. He doubled the targets that Devontae Smith got, and fine. Throw him in there. Give him 2 rushing attempts. Why not? Who cares?
Sure.
Makes him reasonable. He's a reasonable play this week, and a guy that I might be getting to in general.
Yeah, Kansas
So
City, if there has been a weakness all year, it's been defending tight ends, and he is projected very strongly. So
mhm.
that should be a huge indication that like this is a great opportunity for Dallas Goedert to have another strong outing. He actually has a higher projection in yards and fantasy points than Devontae Smith, who is 1,600 more expensive.
Interesting. I didn't expect that actually, and maybe that's why Devontae Smith could be a good tournament play. Then we'll go to the running back
It's the
singular,
birthday boy.
or well, shoot, I guess they're both running backs. But going to
Saquon
Saquon,
Barkley.
I mean, look at these numbers.
Yeah,
It's
he's
freaking
having
nuts.
a running back version of a Larry Fitzgerald-esque
Yeah.
postseason.
Oh, yeah.
If you remember back in 2008 when Arizona Cardinals went on the run and were the Super Bowl runner-ups, and he had 8 touchdowns in 3 games in the postseason. And Saquon, he's finally getting the touchdowns, but just the yardage is just crazy high.
Mm-hmm.
First play from scrimmage last week goes for a 60-yard touchdown. Looks like he was kind of ailing from a calf injury, and that's why if you bet on his rushing attempts, which I believe was at like 25 was the line, obviously that did not work out for you. If you bet on the total yardages, that did not work out, but he scored 3 touchdowns, and that's what worked out. So once again, smashed. Again, Kansas City has been one of the best in the NFL all season defending running backs. So
Right.
it's a very interesting dynamic of David versus, not even David versus Goliath, but it's just the best defense at defending running backs versus the best running back in football, and seeing what side you're taking on this game.
Yeah, it's a immovable object,
what I
unstoppable
meant.
force.
Yes.
Yes, I completely agree with you, though. The immovable object will be the Kansas City defense, like you were alluding to, and then the unstoppable force is Saquon Barkley, and Saquon has been unstoppable. And I gotta stop. I can't fade him anymore, because I faded him once. Well, no, I faded him twice, and he just made me sad because he went for what 40 in that game, so 49. Like, yeah, don't fade him.
Right.
He scares me to not get to, but he's a guy that just puts up numbers. Is there anybody else you want to talk about on this team? Of course, defense and kicker are
Yeah,
viable.
that's why I wanted to bring up Jake Elliott, and he, I think, in 5 of the last 6 games has attempted and made at least 2 field goals. Last week, he didn't need to make field goals because they scored touchdowns every single freaking time.
Yeah.
He had 7 extra points. One time they went for 2, so he could have had 8. He also missed a field goal early on in the game. But yeah, I mean, he's had a ton of 10 double-digit point games, and he's probably my kicker of choice because Kansas City actually hasn't been attempting as many. And
Right.
Butker has been just kind of okay. They haven't really been taking a ton of long-distance chances with him since he's come back from his injury. And so Jake Elliott's my preference if you had to decide a kicker, and I'm open to the idea of kickers as well.
Okay, perfect. I don't know that I'm open.
Oh, and one last thing is that Kenneth Gainwell, he's a name to watch just because, not because he's fantasy relevant, but he left the game last week
Yeah.
because of concussion. So if he doesn't play, Will Shipley, obviously, he's the only other guy they got. But Kenneth Gainwell wasn't really getting important touches or anything of that nature before. But that's the one injury that we're looking at this week. So I did want to point that out.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. And then Will Shipley will be
24.
Yeah, 24.
His,
They didn't.
his price is baked in because of it, and that's why I'm not really even interested, even if Kenneth Gainwell's out. But it's just worth mentioning for sure.
Yeah, and then going to the KC side, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy. Where is Mr. DeAndre Hopkins? I missed one.
Hollywood.
There he is because it's an H and not an M. Noah Gray, Juju,
Running out of spaces.
and Justin Watson is down here at 600. We'll talk about him too. Talking about Travis as the main guy, he had a week that we did not expect. Travis Kelce's been amazing in the playoffs all his career, and for him to go 2 out of 4 for 19 yards, I just in a game where they scored 32 points. It wasn't like it was like a really fight like slow, boring, annoying game. It was a game where he should have probably got more targets than this.
Yeah, it definitely was a bust, and that's kind of been the frustrating thing all season. This is the first time really in the DFS era of his career that just you can't trust him on a weekly basis. It used to be just, can I afford him?
Yeah.
That was really the question, or if there was so much value that it didn't matter if he went for 25 because somebody else down low could possibly go for 15,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd rather do that. But this year, it's like obviously a 3.9 point game last week, but the 2 weeks before, 27 and 22. But then before that, 8 and 6.7. And he's the highest skill player on the Chiefs price wise. And it's just one of the harder ones to trust. But the good news is at least the matchup is there
Yeah, for sure.
once again because Philly they lost to Kobe Dean for the year due to injury, and one of the biggest things that we brought up last week for tight ends because it was such a big tight end slate was Zach Ertz going up against that Philly defense. On top of that being a narrative game, but without Kobe Dean, he had 104 yards on 16 targets, and they
Yeah.
were obviously them trailing from behind the entire game that helped his cause, but they basically did whatever they wanted with him. They kept everybody else in check. And so that's kind of how Philly has done this year is just play out to in terms of how they want to stop teams. And Kelsey should be a beneficiary. He's played in 4 Super Bowls before. He has not scored below 16.5 fantasy points. And then this last matchup that he did play Philly, he caught 6 for 81 in a score. So it's worth mentioning that he is, he shows up when the light shine the brightest.
Yeah, and that's why I was so surprised last week with Buffalo because I expected him to show up, but they did, set up their game plan to not let him beat them, and he didn't. But KC still won.
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
I mean, in Kansas City's in week 21, their first game of the season scoring 32 points. If
Yeah.
I just said didn't give you the box score, but I was like Kansas City first game of the year scoring 32 points, you're playing Travis Kelsey, and then it's like, oh shit, he only had 19 yards.
Yep.
Well, that's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's kind of how these weird things work.
Oh yeah, for sure. So then the next guy is someone that's been actually pretty consistent.
He's been their most consistent guy.
You look at it. They beat Denver. He didn't play in the Denver game, so that's why there's zeros across the board. But 7 targets, 6 targets, 9 targets, 11 targets.
He's got rushing attempts in there, touchdown upside,
Yep.
obviously 10 on the year, and a lot of that coming from the second half of the year. So he's their most versatile guy, most consistently used guy. But yeah, he's in a very interesting spot because, gadget guy versus really, really strong defense and secondary. How is that going to match up,
Yeah, but he has been good, and I would definitely be a guy, get behind someone that's, they're trying to get the ball to. So yeah, I'm in the camp that Xavier Worthy's a good play on this slate. It's just depending if you want to get Travis Kelsey, Xavier Worthy, a quarterback, and Saquon. So that's kind of the question you have to ask yourself. Hollywood Brown is a reasonable price at 6,400 or 5,400, especially because he has had 8, 7, and 5 targets throughout this. One dud, but that was a weird game against
they barely had
Houston.
the ball.
So
The biggest thing that was interesting to me, obviously, we kind of raved about him in week 16 and 17 when he made his Chiefs debut and how they really made an effort to give him the ball. Well, recently, obviously, Houston, weird game, kind of out the window. But this past week, he had 3 catches in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And then did not have a catch the rest of the game in a close, tight game where they needed to score points. So at least his price has gone down a little bit. It's just very interesting. It's a kind of right in the middle between, the Goddard and the kickers. And it's just kind of, if you've got to pick one, it's hard to imagine having confidence to put him over any of those options.
Yeah, for sure. Next up, we're going to have the $4,400 guy that I am less confident, even more so than even Hollywood Brown. And I'm not out on Hollywood Brown. I'm pretty much out on DeAndre Hopkins at this point. I'm sure you have snap counts up, but it's probably nothing. And he doesn't run routes.
He played 18% of the snaps last week. That was 4th on the team by a wide margin. He almost had less snaps than Justin Watson, who is $600, a big price gap. And I don't get the lack of usage, but again, because nobody's on him, he's probably going to score a touchdown.
Why not, right? But makes him a tournament play. I think he's always DeAndre Hopkins is good at football, so he should be a tournament play if he is not getting owned at all.
I mean, he's showing a 6% owned right now. He's got Johnny Wilson ownership. That's how low it is. So if you play a ton of lines, I might get slightly overweight to it, but I'm probably anticipating on doing a 3 max this week.
Yeah.
That's really how I think the prices and the ownership is kind of reflecting itself. It's really hard to have confidence in putting 33% of Hopkins in my lines.
No, I completely agree with you. It's sad. It's honestly sad because I was really excited about him going to the Chiefs and playing well and stuff like that.
It is worth mentioning, though, that Juju has
Yeah.
really had an uptick in snaps of late, and he played 58%, which was third on the team. But he's, two receiver set. He's their guy. He had two big chunk plays, a 31 and a 29-yarder this past week. Last time he was in the Super Bowl with the Chiefs, he was their number one option. So him being at $2,000, we have the Captain Price on the board there, but yeah, he's probably one of the safest options. And ownership wise, let me see. It doesn't look like he's too highly owned. If I'm trying to find him, he is showing as 8%. Very, very reasonable. I have a lot more confidence in doing that and saving some money to try to get a bunch of those guys up top.
For sure. No, I'm completely with you. So let's go ahead and look at Noah Gray real quick because he's an option. He did have 2 catches and 22 yards in the last Super Bowl against in the last Super Bowl. 3 catches against Houston. Sure. He's a whole 2,800, so I'd rather go Juju. But if you think Noah Gray does something like he did at
he's still
points
on the
in the
field, and the matchup still applies. Just what we said about Kelsey, it still applies to Noah Gray as well. It's just the red zone usage that he had in the month span in the middle of the season just isn't there at the moment.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we're just throwing dart throws at all these Chiefs receivers because really there's only been one consistent option. It's their rookie.
Yeah. Rashee Rice in this situation would be a smash play, basically.
Right.
So that would be the guy we'd be talking about, but he is obviously on IR, so it is what it is. We're gonna go to our flex and grab one more guy. It's Justin Watson. Didn't have any targets this last week. Didn't have any targets the week before, but he's $600. He did catch the 2-point conversion in that game. That's why he has 2 points there. He's only $600, and he's going to be on the field. They like putting him on the field and letting him run wind sprints, so he could catch the ball. He had 3 catches for 58 yards in the most recent game, I believe, against San Francisco last year. Let me grab that to make sure. Yeah, 3 for 54. I apologize. But yeah, so he did show up in the last Super Bowl. So I'm not against playing him.
Even if he only did the 3.8 fantasy points that he did in the last Eagles Super Bowl, I would take that every day on a $600
player. Shoot.
He hasn't been playing. I mean, he was consistently in around 50% all year in terms of snap share. But at the same time, it's really dipped in the playoffs. He had 8% in the divisional round, 17 in the championship round.
Yeah.
It just kind of like he's one of those dart throws. He's probably the only guy below 2,000 I'm interested in. To be honest, we wrote up like Grant Calcaterra because he's on the field some as well. Jahan Dotson is by default a wide receiver 3 on Philly.
Yeah.
But it's just like I'd rather just go 1,000 cheaper. And if you get a 0 for Justin Watson, that will not hurt you whatsoever as long as you
hit the other guys. For sure. Yeah.
I mean, if your goal is to try to squeeze both quarterbacks and both wide receiver 1s or Saquon plus all these guys up top, but one of them's your captain and that guy went for 30, you're probably cashing because of that. But it's just that's the if then is you got to nail the other 5. And especially if it's a 38-35 kind of game similar to the last time, that definitely is a very strong strategy.
Okay. Let's go ahead and talk some game script. And I want to hear your game script for this game. I think we're pretty aligned, though. Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, I was actually, I figured we'd be kind of similar, and I was wondering what your thoughts were because these are 2, good scoring defenses, and on top, at times both of these offenses haven't really put up a ton of points, and so I was wondering if you were going to straddle the over under with me, but it seems like we're both kind of expecting some points in this one. I put 31-27 Kansas City. I just can't bet against Kansas City anymore.
Right.
That's just it. I'm expecting history. I'm expecting a very, very fun game. I just hope that there's not the anticlimactic finish that there was with the PI, which was a PI and a hold in the same play. And the field goal, it just sucks that was the last play basically of the game. But I expect some very fun fireworks in this one. Yeah,
I'm on KC 34-28. Just can't bet against KC, man. It's just not something I can do. But I'm on the train that you play Saquon and your favorite Chiefs, and go from there. So we will be talking about our must plays. My must play is Saquon Barkley, $12,000, and it's pretty expensive, but you saw the numbers. 30 plus point upside, 40 plus point upside. If he does do that, you have to have him. And I know that they're good on defense. I know it, but I can't get away from him. It is what it is.
Right. I really have no confidence with my must play just because of the fact that I can't right now just lock in because again I mentioned I'm going to play 3 lines. I
Right.
can't confidently lock in one guy all 3 times and just say I'm building around this because I almost put bless you.
Thank you.
I almost put Patrick Mahomes as my must play. But at the same time, if Jalen Hurts tush pushes twice and Saquon goes for his 150 and a score, Patrick Mahomes probably isn't going to be optimal unless he goes for 350 and 4 touchdowns.
Right, for
And
sure.
I don't expect that. I just expect, a very strong outing. But if multiple others score 30 plus points, that's not really going to be a winning strategy on just plugging in the winning quarterback. And he's the highest rostered guy too right now. So that was kind of a little, nerves in that. But Travis Kelce's my lock. Matchups there. The inconsistency worries me a ton. And on top of that, because he's 9,000, it really boxes you in on how you can structure stuff. It's either if you go both quarterbacks and him, there's not much else. If you go one quarterback and Saquon, it's not like you can get a ton of correlation there. So it's really tough to build around, or like basically you only have to do a certain game script, and it just depends on if that's really what you're anticipating.
Yeah. And we'll see when we make lines like how we're both thinking about it, but I think there's a few ways to build. And I think Saquon at captain is a way, and then trying to get a cheaper captain, get off the 12,000 is a way, but I don't know if there's a mid guy that you want to get to as a captain. And that's what, worries me, I guess, on this slate is like, I don't think I want to play a captain under 6,000, So,
Well, we'll see. I have the idea in my head of I want one expensive captain.
right.
I want one of the range of whether it's Worthy, Kelsey, kind of one of those kind of guys captain,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm willing to do a cheap captain actually. Dallas Goedert, because of his projection and how strongly it is, and the matchup, like he opens up a lot if you're able to throw him in at captain. So if he gets his 14 to 15 like he did last week, like that's really going to work it out as long as somebody doesn't go for like 40. If it's just a bunch of guys getting 20,
Right.
it allows you to fit 4 of those guys, which is what makes it so good.
Yeah. And then your fade.
I'm going to, and again, it's not a confident, but I'm just picking my least favorite of the expensive options. AJ Brown is my fade. And, he went for 6 for 96 in a score last game. Last time we played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, 6 for 96 in a score.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a common theme there, but I'd rather just kind of get with a Kansas City correlated build or Jalen Hurts and, a couple of mid-tier options, which obviously is Goddard and Smith, or getting up to Saquon. He just does what I said about Kelsey and how it kind of boxes you in. It does that even more, spending $600 more for somebody who has been also inconsistent.
Yeah.
A lot of that's because of the lack of attempts and usage because of Jalen Hurts' spotty passing attempts.
Yeah. That's fair. I'm not going to play any of the KC running backs. We've kind of faded them on every slate throughout, and we've actually been fine because of it. So I'm going to just keep going. I'm going to just roll with it because they just haven't been very consistent on either side. Of course, Kareem Hunt just keeps falling in the end zone, but hopefully, we get the game where he doesn't do that, and you get the pass catchers, scoring the touchdowns.
It is worth mentioning from the last showdown to this one, his price dropped by $1,000, and he by far had the most snaps this time compared to the week before where it was like 40, 30, 20. He had 60 or almost 60% of the snaps, all the goal line touches. Isaiah Pacheco hasn't had one goal line touch since he's returned, and it's been all Kareem Hunt. So it basically is just like if he falls in one more time, being 6,400, that really kind of at least piques my interest. But it's, again, kind of tough to imagine myself rostering him.
I think that's fair. It's just
there's not many people to fade on
yeah,
this slate because the price is really strongly structured to where there's not an obvious like even DeAndre Hopkins we've had as a fade a couple of weeks in a row. He's 4,400, so I understand the argument in investing in him. Or Isaiah Pacheco now is 52, so maybe a couple weeks off. he gets a couple more receptions, like I can see him getting to 10 points or something of that nature. So it's not like there's a true just this guy is just I don't know why he's this price.
Yeah.
Like it's a very very good slate for pricing.
Yeah, and I mean they did that. As a whole and a collective, they get better as the year goes on. This is the last game of the year, so that's how. Hopefully, they can it sticks that way. But looking at our contrarian plays, mine is Justin Watson, $600, and like I said earlier, he had 3 for 58 last time. So I'm great if it's 8.8 points. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of where I was looking, especially because of the price. It allows me to get up. If I do go with some cheaper guys, he would be a cheap guy that I would like to get to if I had to.
Fun stuff. And then tournament play, I'll go first. I think.
Well, Justin Watson was my tournament play.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll go second. My tournament play is Devontae Smith. I alluded to him before. I mean, he just hasn't had the boom game yet. But he's catching it's not like he's playing poorly. He's just catching every one of his passes. 12 for 12 this postseason. He just hasn't scored yet. Nobody's really expecting anything, and I think he's just by himself at 7,400 that no one's really going to flock to. Of everybody that is above, I believe everybody that's above $5,000, I think he's the cheapest guy that's not a kicker.
Yeah.
So that's a lie. Well, not including Isaiah Pacheco because nobody's playing him.
Right.
But other than that, he's the lowest owned, projected right now, even below Hollywood Brown. One of the kickers, Harrison Butker, is actually at 25%. So he's basically step in step with Jake Elliott at 23% right now, which is, I think, a pretty good bargain.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you on that. Going over, and we'll start building some lines. Do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first? I saw you were.
I can go first.
Okay.
So my first one, I'm going to captain Travis Kelce.
Okay. Oh, hold on. All right, we're ready now. That's not captain.
Yeah.
Come on.
No worries. Yeah, so again, I don't know. I could be having some vibes at the end of the week to where he's not my captain or he's not 100% owned. But right now, I'm just building on the matchup and the upside and the hit track record of him coming through in these games.
Right.
And I'm going to correlate him with. I'm going to fade your must play in this line because I like the way it's structured. Both quarterbacks are going this line. I'm also going to get Xavier Worthy, the most consistent option. I'm also going to get Dallas Goedert, who's projected very strongly. And then that leaves just enough for Juju Smith-Schuster, who's coming off, like I said, a bunch of snaps, 58% on the team, which was third, just below Marquise Brown for second. And,
I like it. If you're going to fade Saquon, this is how you fade him right here.
And the one if then I wanted to bring up just in case, if you like this structure, instead of going Goddard and Juju, you have enough to go Devontae Smith and Justin Watson with the same price to have a couple hundred remainder. Just wanted to throw that out there.
And definitely ownership is probably more on the Goddard Juju side,
Exactly.
so you could get different that way. So I don't disagree with that. I think that's solid. Mine is different because my captain is going to be Saquon, so that just completely changes everything between our lines. But I'm going to go with Mahomes, Kelce, Worthy, just like you. I have a slick 2,500 left over. Let me make sure.
I know you went Justin Watson at this point, right?
Oh, no. Sorry. I didn't do this. I changed my line. I apologize. Let me not do that. I went with a different line that I thought was safer.
Okay.
It's safer, but it still gets similar players. Xavier Worthy, a captain. Okay. And then Saquon, Mahomes, Kelce. That's where my money came from. Needed that money, basically. I'm going to go down and get Juju at 2,000, and then I'm going to go with your favorite kicker and my favorite kicker in this game, in Jake
Elliott.
Yeah. And that would be how I would kind of structure. I'm on the KC side. I'm trying to get the best KC player, and I think Xavier Worthy could be that guy.
We had the exact same KC players. You just had one cheaper captain, and then obviously getting up to Saquon,
right?
And then Jake Elliott as the last guy in is very, very fair.
If you want to go Bucker, you could. Got the $200 to do it. I'm just gonna go with the opposite. Losing team kickers have been doing great this year. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, so, on top of that, gets way more looks.
Yeah, opportunities
of late at least, and on top of that, he's less owned.
Yep. And then I'm sure we should make a line with Saquon at captain.
Yeah, I just want to see what you were about to build.
Yeah, so I had here, I went Patrick Mahomes. This is my line two, guys, because we are building three, so I have to have some more, obviously. Going down to, not D Hop, where is Hollywood? 5,400 for Hollywood. I have 7,600. You could do a few things. You could go with Jake Elliott like I did prior, and then go with any of these guys. It would be between Noah Gray or Juju. You could go. Unfortunately, I don't have enough to get Devontae like you had, so
Yeah, I
right,
mean, if you
just
punted a
short.
$200
Yeah,
zero, you
yeah.
could, but
Throw him in there and get the $200 Johnny Wilson or something like
don't know
that.
if it's worth it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't fault you because we're both picking the over for this game.
Yeah, Goddard, and then Dotson, if you wanted to do that. So basically, it's those four guys, and then figuring out your other two. You could also switch these two out, and then go down to Juju and get 5,200 and play Jake Elliott.
Gotcha.
So there's some options right there. I just think Saquon at cap, and then Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey.
Okay. Next up, I wanna do a correlated line, or it's not even as correlated as one would think, but we're going the narrative of both Jalen Hurts and Saquon are going to return massive value. So Patrick Mahomes is not optimal. How does that work?
Do we have to put one of them at captain?
We can if you want to.
I think if we do, you're saying that Jalen Hurts gets like two
Touch
tush
pushes
pushes.
and scores 28.
So we're putting him at captain,
Okay.
I think, and then Saquon in there, and then we build.
Okay.
So which?
I'd say we need one of Kelsey or Worthy, at least.
Okay,
Do
let's
you
go
have a
Worthy on this
preference?
one.
Okay.
Let's just do Worthy on this one.
Sweet.
5,400, 5,800, and then 4,000. We could go up to Devontae Smith here, actually,
Do that.
and then go 7,000's good, because then we can do like 2,000 and a kicker, because that's what I had earlier.
You can do that. You can do Justin Watson and have enough for Goddard as another pass catcher for Philly.
Yeah.
Do a 4-2 build.
I don't really like any of the other guys, unfortunately.
No, I don't. I really don't.
So yeah, you would leave a little bit of money on the board, and you'd have $600 up there.
Yeah. Leaving money on the table is okay, especially on the slate. Like I said, price is really nice.
Yeah.
And so, again, there's going to be because this is the Super Bowl, you're going to have a lot more duped possibilities because you're going to have novices that don't play tournaments that are just going to try to win $1 million.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it by just playing
They're gonna
everything and zero out.
they're
and
gonna
stuff
go to
like that.
RotoWire and they're gonna put in, build me a line. It's gonna be the top line that everybody plays basically.
Exactly.
So, and that's not the line that normally wins. I'll be very honest, guys.
Mhm.
But yeah, so you could do it like this. I think you could also. I want to do something. Where
It's fine. We're playing around. It's the last episode of the season. So,
Yeah.
um,
It's been a long
let's-
season. Been
it
really
has
great though.
yeah,
Um,
we're going to finish the season just as strong as we started it.
Goddard,
Um,
and then
yeah, that's what I was about to propose is the Goddard captain line.
how about now? You can go to Vontae. Now you could probably go Kelsey. Leave you 1,900. Damn.
No, what
So
I would
close.
do is go Mahomes and Justin Watson
Okay.
and have a 4-2 build. But
With some serious discounted
Mhm.
ownership right there.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that. That's not a bad way to go. You could go Kelsey instead of Worthy. What's that look like? 9,900,
Mhm.
300. You could take a dud.
yeah,
You could take a Devontae Smith in
And that's for
there and
Juju.
25 for Juju. You could do a lot of things, actually. I mean, basically, this whole range right here, you're going to be able to play. So you could play both kickers. You could play Hollywood and, I mean, I wouldn't play Hollywood and DeAndre, but you could. That's not, I don't think without Mahomes, you want more than 2 KC receivers.
that's very true.
Yeah.
And even though Kelsey is his guy, we just saw in the very divisional round where Patrick Mahomes only has like 13 fantasy points and Kelsey goes for over 100 yards and
Right.
score and is optimal without Patrick Mahomes. So
Mhm.
you can't always just say, oh, I have to pair up these two. Obviously, it does correlate well. Most of the time, it's going to work out, but there are occasions where one just kind of struggles, but he's the only one catching the ball, whereas
Yeah.
everybody else is having multiple zeros like Marquise and DeAndre did against the Texans.
Yeah, I think though I'm good. I don't know if you want to build anything else.
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do one other thing. We're going to talk about the. I'm going to let you introduce Underdog and
Yeah, yeah.
Prize Picks real
So
quick.
so Underdog, they're doing promos all week right now. They're doing 59% profit boost for the next like day or so. With their specials going on, they also have a sweat free,
Hmm.
which is a basically protected $15 play. At least that's what mine says. You see that, you see two profit boosts right there, and that's just from the last 2 days. And then you got like I said, the sweat free thing. Be look on the lookout for a free square. I bet you that would come out either Friday or Saturday.
Right.
So just be looking all week because they're doing promos for that. And then also like play basketball $5, earn this token or something like that. They've been doing that a lot lately. And then on Prize Picks, oh, you don't have that tab pulled up,
I don't have Prize Picks
but you don't
open
even
yet.
need to go over there.
We just
Patrick
have.
Mahomes free square,
Yeah.
up to $25 max. There's also going to be Flex Friday. They may even boost it a little bit. I think a couple weeks ago, one of my buddies got a $35
Hmm.
protected play, and it's just like it's Super Bowl. They like to go out with the bang and make people spend
Oh
money.
yeah.
Like I saw a bookie say that they're expecting $1.3 billion in bets this week because of the game, and it's just like I don't know if I love many numbers from a prop perspective. I'm gonna obviously play a couple, but I'm gonna play much lighter compared to playing DFS because I really like the pricing on these as long as we find ways to take stands. But they've been out since this past Monday.
Yeah.
So they're already juiced up, and I
Moving
don't know
and
if I'm going to play a bunch of 5, 6 picks. I'm just going to find a couple that I like. One that did stand out to me was Xavier Worthy and his all-purpose yards. It's gone up even by a yard since I picked it, but 66 and a half. He's hit that in 4 or 5, if I remember correctly. Um,
and I want to see. I think Prize Picks might have it lower. Let me look just
okay.
to check. No, it's 66.5 on both.
Okay.
So
So
it has gone up, like you said.
yeah. So again, less confidence because it's going up a yard, but it's trending in the direction in which that we're picking, which is typically what you like to see.
Yeah.
You just wish that you could see those or get those a little earlier in the week. But obviously, we're recording as a Tuesday. I believe this is going out Thursday,
Yeah, it'll be Thursday.
so
It might even be higher.
it could be even higher. So just kind of play what you can are willing to lose,
Yeah.
but at the same time play the smart lines that you know are going to win some money because we are going to finish this year strong.
Yeah, and then the one that I was gonna play, it's actually better on Prize Picks, but by Thursday when this comes out, it won't be. So, I'm actually on the higher 5.5, 5.0 receptions on Prize Picks. Right now it's at 5.5 on Underdog,
But
but
it's a little bit of a boost, so that's
yeah,
why.
you can also get it if you were to change it. That's not as good. I was hoping there was a 5 on there,
No,
but
they typically only do halves on underdog.
yeah. But I like his number at 5. Currently he is, basically 4 out of 5 on it, but he did get 5 receptions in one game. But otherwise he's 4 out of 5 on this number. So this was my number, and then Cam had his for the same player, so we can't put them together, but we both like Xavier Worthy to do well this week, so I think that he's a good one. I want to see what Saquon's number was over
I
here.
think it was 115 rushing.
Jeez
Yeah,
Louise, man.
and it's not like I have a ton of confidence in doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
I think it's interesting to pick the under for the rushing attempts because I think 23 rushing attempts in the Super Bowl is a pretty tall task, especially in this past week when it was a positive game script for him. He only got to 15, and obviously he was banged up, and maybe 2 weeks off is good to go. But Kansas
Right.
City is number 2 against running backs. Number 1 if you just say the regular season. Like they don't give up a bunch of chunk plays, but it also is Saquon Barkley, so you never know. But if there are just a bunch of splash plays and it's not long sustaining drives, it's going to be really hard to get to 23 rushing attempts.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And then Travis Kelce, if you look at his stuff, like because we're talking about our favorite guys that are on the actual slate, we want these guys to do well. 6.5 receptions. That's a lot. First team reception. That's fun. I've never seen that one before.
Yeah, they're underdog's starting to put up some fun ones because you got first touchdown
Touchdown,
scorer,
yeah.
first to 20+ yard receptions. Like they have thousands of things that you can bet on in the Super Bowl.
Cool.
So
I love
a
it.
lot of fun
Look at
stuff.
this. Oh my God,
I
there's
know.
all of this. Oh wow, we would have
So
to.
Underdog offers a lot more different types of lines, so maybe we'll have to fish through those because I actually haven't looked a ton at
Right.
Underdog this week. But they also have the rivals, which we've kind of
Mhm.
looked at and be interested in before. So
Yes, I do
Prospects
play
doesn't
those a lot.
offer as much types of props, but it also is the Super Bowl, so you just have to expect everything.
Oh yeah, but we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. This is the last video that we are going to do on the 2025 NFL season. And then we get into draft. You saw the Senior Bowl already happened, which I find very odd, but whatever, because it shouldn't be before the Super Bowl. But so we talked about that. We have a recap that came out yesterday. Please go check that out if you haven't yet. And we're going to keep doing stuff for the draft. We're going to be doing stuff. Cam is going to be on the off-season everything for the NFL, just kind of what teams need, who's moving, free agents and all that stuff. And then we're going to piece together who we think should go where and basically how the draft should go and how free agency should go to make these teams, better.
Yeah,
because
all
this
that fun
is
stuff.
their time,
Right. Yeah, and essentially the Super Bowl caps off and makes it exactly 1 year because we basically started the week after the Super Bowl last year, and it's been a blast. We have grown so much just talking in front of a camera, let alone the success we've had in predicting correctly and calling out like you're the draft scout and doing all that stuff. We absolutely crushed it last year. Not only predicting who was going to go where, but just the guys that we expected to be the risers, the fallers,
and be good.
Exactly.
For
all
sure.
that to our first showdown this year, almost getting first place, just wrong captain, and then just crushing it. We've had success. Maybe that's one of the goals to have some stronger mains next year because we had some inconsistencies there, but we still are green on the year because of the big booms we've had, and that's why you just got to play every week because you never know when those are coming. But it's been fun. We've had a lot of strengths. We've had teams of best ball go to the finals this year. A lot of our ownership, a lot what we got right. There's also stuff we've got wrong, but it's been a absolute blast so far, and there's so much more to do, grow, and just continue to do as we cover the sport of football.
Yeah, brand new room. If you go watch those old videos, man, we had no idea what we were doing, and now we figured it out. Not that the content was bad; it was just how to do the content. Presentation, talking.
Yeah.
Like he said, in front of a camera. It's not easy. We have difficult time doing it individually because it's tough. But we appreciate y'all coming along for the ride. All of our friends that have supported us throughout it all. So huge shout out to y'all. And we can't wait to do it again this year. We're gonna kill it. It starts with the draft and then goes from there. And we let's keep the track record running.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna grow this community. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be strong. This is the path going forward. So jump along for the ride and let's just don't look back.
Yep. But we appreciate y'all, and we will see y'all in the next one.